This is Rob Roselius with Learn by the Byte, and welcome to Android Programming 4. Hi, this is Rob Roselius with Learn by the Byte. Welcome to Android Programming 4. This video is a series of videos. This video course is designed to follow our Android Programming 1, Android Programming 2, and Android Programming 3. So if you have finished our Android Programming 3 course taught by Jamie Romero, first of all, I'll say I have a tough act to follow in Jamie, but I hope you stay with it because we learned some very important and powerful techniques and topics in this course. And I'm going to go over what those topics are in this introductory video. Also talk a little bit about the setup and so on. Now, if you've bought this video course, Android Programming 4, and you didn't attend our Android Programming 1, 2, and 3, that's fine too. As long as you have sufficient experience and knowledge of Android programming already, maybe you've developed some apps of your own, you've worked with creating views and layouts and things like that, launching activities, then you should be good to go. Maybe that's a good place for us to start is with the prerequisites for this course. So as with all of the Android programming courses, you do need Java coding knowledge and experience because that's the language we're programming in. And you should have taken Android Programming 3 or had the equivalent experience. That's what was saying just now. Right, so if you look at the topics in the Android Programming 1, 2, and 3, if you feel comfortable with those, then you should be good to go coming into this course. And then in one of the chapters, we'll be talking about using the SQLite database in Android. And if you already know some SQL, maybe you've worked with some of the MySQL or Oracle databases, things like that, SQL Server, that's fine, it's helpful, but it's not required. All right, so we'll just see the bare minimum of SQL syntax. All right, so let's go through the table of contents, if you will. Section 1, that's the section you're in right now, and this is our course introduction overview. We're doing the course overview right now, and the rest of Section 1 is all the setup. The most important thing that you will get out of this course is what you actually do. Right, so there are lots of examples in this material. You should be loading up and running those examples as we're walking through them and talking about them, looking at the source code of those examples. And then each chapter, each section has lab exercises for you to work on your own. And you definitely need to do those on your own. You need to challenge yourself to try and solve the problem as described in the lab exercise. Right? That is what you will really take away from this video course, what will really cement your knowledge of the material we're covering. All right, so in order to do that, you'll need the student files. The student files is a zip file that has all of the Android app projects that we use in this course, in a form that is very simple to import into Eclipse, the Eclipse development environment with ADT. There is also an optional download, so you can purchase a soft copy or hard copy, for that matter, of the workbook that I'm covering this material from. If you're new to Udemy, if you are just jumping in here, you haven't been through our Android Programming 1, 2, or 3 yet, there are some tips that you should really watch this video on optimizing your Udemy experience, setting the proper screen or video resolution so that you'll be able to read the code that I'm walking through, for example, things like that. Now, do you have to set up your computer? Maybe if you've just finished the Android Programming 3 course, then you're already set up. You have Java installed, you have Eclipse installed with the Android SDK and the ADT plugin. You're good to go, and all that you need to do is import the student files. Now, if you're coming into this Android Programming 4 course and you do not have an Android development environment already set up for yourself to use, we do have a video on setting that up. We just borrowed one of the videos from one of Jamie's earlier Android Programming courses, and you can follow that to get Eclipse all set up. We're assuming, though, if you're coming into this either having finished the previous courses or already being an experienced Android developer, then you've got your environment set up. So that takes us right into the actual material, and the focus of this course is data storage, retrieval, and display on the Android device. So you already know how to create Android user interface layouts and use the various types of view objects. You know how to launch an activity from another activity. Maybe you did Android 3, so you know how to send notifications and use dialogues and toasts to interact with the user, things like that. In this section 2, we'll look at data storage, taking advantage of the Android file system. So your Android device has a file system locally on it that's organized in a particular way, and your application then can use that file system to store information. And in section 2, we focus on two types of storage. One is preferences. This is a structured, simple form of data storage intended for what it sounds like, for storing application preferences and settings. And so each setting has a key, like background color or text size or something like that. And then that same preference has a value that can be somehow or other set by the user. And we'll see how to use a preference screen and a preference activity, preference fragment, to very simply, with very little coding, set that up so that users can hit your settings option in your apps menu and customize your app for themselves. And then the other half of the chapter is working with files, and this is unstructured storage, arbitrarily structured storage, where your application opens up a file which is nothing more than a stream of bytes, and it can write any stream of bytes it wants. Maybe it's writing text, maybe it's writing an image that the user drew or something like that. All of that just goes into a file that your application can then later open back up again and pull back out. And we'll see how we can specify where to create that storage, whether it's on the device internal storage or the external SD card or wherever. Some alternate forms of storage like cache files and raw resource files that are read-only. And all of these assume that you have basic familiarity as a Java developer with the basic Java I/O classes. Right? So these methods are going to give you file input streams, file output streams, and you will need to then wrap those in the appropriate Java I/O classes to do text output or binary output or whatever efficient kind of output you want to do, input and output. And then we'll introduce the lab exercises, and in this course we're going to have selected lab reviews, so we aren't going to go through every lab as a walkthrough. We want you to really do those labs yourselves, try them out. We do have solution code for all of the labs that you can then open up in Eclipse and look at one solution. And I'd say in every single class, when we provide a solution, some solution code, it is a solution, not the only solution. So section 3 then turns to a different form of storage. This is complex structured storage using a SQLite database on the device. A SQLite is an embeddable relational database product, very popular in application development these days because it's very fast and efficient and small footprint. And it's embedded on the Android device, so your application can very simply create a database and then execute SQL statements like queries and data manipulation, insert, update, and delete data in that database. And so we'll walk through what that looks like in Android and how we manage, when we perform a query, the results coming back, which come back in the form of a cursor. And also we'll look at some ideas and techniques for simplifying your application code, encapsulating your data access in a helper class or adapter class that insulates the rest of your application code, so all the other parts of your complex application don't have to have their own SQL text statements embedded in them. We'll see what that looks like. And then we will, of course, have lab exercises for that as well. And this is where we get a little more complicated. Again, for those of you coming from Jamie's Android 1, 2, and 3, some of the labs there were fairly simple and atomic. But starting in data storage for, with preferences and files, and then continuing to SQLite database, you're going to be building upon a single project. So you'll be developing, well, actually enhancing, because we're going to provide starter code, stub code for you, but you're going to enhance it. You're going to set up some preferences in your app, in that application that the user can set. You're going to start writing log files and things like that. And then you're going to create a SQLite database to store the application data for that project, for that app. And so you'll continue to enhance that. You'll write a lot of code. This is challenging stuff. This is not intro level. We are now at the intermediate to advanced level in Android. So a lot of good challenges there. Finally, section 4, data adapter views. Now that we've stored our data, now that we have data stored in rows that we can retrieve in cursors, or stored in files that we can retrieve as lines of text, for example, how can we display that in our application, in our user interface? And the way we do that is with what are called data adapter views. Rather than hand create each and every, or in code create the views to display each record of data that we're showing the user, so all of that's sort of framed up in the form of adapter views and adapters. So an adapter view, take an example, the most common one, the list view, would show records of data as a vertically scrolling list. And so rather than having you manually instantiate in your code a view for each of those list items and then let it scroll off the screen and create another, fill it with data, let it scroll off the screen, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, the adapters and adapter views connect the user interface to the data. So you have an adapter class that will manage placing the actual data values into those views, and then the adapter view, the list view, will manage the scrolling and proper management of resources. So we'll see several different kinds of adapter view, a list view, a grid view, and then some special cases like a spinner, which is a data-driven selection drop-down, like a drop-down list. An autocomplete text view, where your data is a set of words that will be suggested to the user as they're entering text into a text view. And then we'll see some related material, view pager and pager adapter. These are not actually, formally speaking, adapter views, but they work very similarly. And view pager is designed to manage a horizontally scrolling list of views or images or whatever. And then we'll see an important technique for making the scrolling of large amounts of data in your user interface as efficient as possible with view holders. And the labs for this, these are going to be the most satisfying labs that you will have seen so far, because building on your database development and your file access, you will now connect that to user interfaces, and you will be able to input records and then see those show up in a list view that you can scroll through, select one, edit the record, all the kinds of things that a real-world app, data-driven app, is going to need to be able to do. Finally, there will be just a brief course summary, review what we went over, but by that time, hopefully you are totally immersed in these lab exercises and working on those, and then you can continue to develop that lab example as far as you want to take it. So build upon that, and hopefully this will tie into your own ideas on the kinds of apps that you're going to want to be developing. So hope you get a lot out of this, a lot of material. This is going to be some fairly challenging material, a lot of work to do in the labs themselves, and I think you'll come away with this feeling much more confident in your skills as an Android developer. All right, so have fun. See you in the next video.